your eyes adjust and you see a sea of cops, all with their guns pointing at you. You stand there and your body begins to shake. Have you ever had that moment when your body kind of takes over and your tummy starts to knot up and you can't think, you can't even say your name because you're so scared? Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Now, it doesn't have to be a drug bust. It could be, how about a boardroom meeting, right? How about going out on a date? How about paying your taxes? You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to be a drug bust. But y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? It doesn't have to be that dramatic. I mean, really, the brain cannot tell the difference between a real or imagined threat. It cannot. There are moments when your reaction is so palpable that you can hear your mother coming out of your mouth, but you can't stop it. You can see that you're about to do something that's going to cost you a lot of hardship, money and time, but you don't not do it. Make sense? Because your brain, literally, it's not a willpower thing. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not lazy or trifling. Consider, and I mean that in the most extended sense, consider that the way the brain is organized is designed to keep you alive. So when your brain feels like you are threatened, and we can talk, again, we don't have the time to get into the social neuroscience, but just for people who want to look it up, David Rock, he's a neuroleadership expert. He has a whole plethora of different kinds of knowledge around how when the brain is in reaction, the same networks that go off for basic survival skills like food and water are the exact same networks in the brain that fire off when we are threatened. And social situations are inherently threatening. When you go to a group and you don't know somebody and you say ha 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 ha, you can't talk, it's because your body is not working with you. It's trying to protect you. So you're back on that front porch, trying not to get shot. Here's the question I have for you. Think of a time in your own life where you've reacted and it cost you your life. Now, when I say life, I don't just mean your physical life. I mean your financial life. I mean your emotional life. I mean your relational life, where you've reacted, where you actually, instead of putting your hands up, because we all know that if you reach out, what happens to the cops? What do? They shoot. And that's what, I think every black man I know under 27 has learned, don't move. Because if you move, that equals aggression. Does that make sense? So you learn not to move. But in the not moving, you actually train your brain to actually back off versus leaning into. Does that make sense? So I'm inviting you to take a moment and just see if you can identify where have you actually reacted. What relationship? Where in business have you reacted and it's cost you something major? A contract? A relationship? Intimacy with your kids? Where you could not stop yourself from saying that thing or doing that thing or not doing that thing that had an impact. Take a moment, make a note of it for yourself. I'll be quiet. Question. Let me say it this way first. You never know whose life you're going to save. You don't. You probably already have. With a kind word or deed, you've saved someone's life. I promise you, you have. You just don't know it. Who saved your life? I invite you to look at who saved your life. It could have been you were doing a presentation and the technology didn't work, and somebody came in and fixed it right on the fly. Or your child was sick, and somebody drove you to the hospital because your car didn't work. Or you weren't well, and someone took the time just to smile at you. Who saved your life? Just say that person's name out loud.
Alex Harley.
Say again?
Alex Harley.
Alex Harley. Excellent. Who else?
The lifeguard.
The lifeguard. Okay. Hey, we love it when they're unknown, right? Lifeguard. Okay, who else? Who saved your life? Yes, baby. Are you just raising your hand because I'm raising my hand? That's the best. Okay, then we should just do that. Okay. On this side, who saved your life?
Walker Bowie.
Who?
Walker Bowie.
Walker Bowie. Okay, great. I invite you right now to just capture in your mind someone who saved your life. It could have been financial, it could have been family, it doesn't matter, but it really is real for you, okay? The person who saved my life was my 9th grade math teacher. Her name is Judy Francis. Because I was living on the streets, I couldn't take care of myself physically. I came to school smelling like urine. And the other teachers pretended they didn't notice. And the kids laughed, because that's what kids do in high school. It's like, that was going to happen. But there was one teacher who didn't pretend she didn't notice. She let me get myself cleaned up, and she dropped me off at a street corner so I didn't have to explain. Do y'all understand the grace in that? That's how we developed a trust relationship. She never made me explain what was going on. Our whole relationship happened in the unsaid. It was never articulated. So I would stay after school to help her wipe her boards. And at that time, I didn't talk because it hurt too much to speak. I just wasn't doing it. And one day, she came and sat beside me in the chair. Now you have to imagine, Miss Judy Francis is about 5'1", 250 pounds, light skin, long hair, and feisty. She has an attitude problem in the best way, right? But she's a high school teacher, so you imagine the kind of like attitude, right? She comes and sits and plops down in the seat and says, "Look, if you're not going to talk, then write." Now she said it like I should do it, so I did it because she said it like I should, right? So I took the piece of paper and pad and I started to write down my thoughts. And my thoughts came out as poetry. She read it, typed it, and then sent it off to the AXO competition for the NAACP, and I won. Now, how do you think I felt about myself when I won? What do you think was my relationship to myself? That was shocked. I was stunned would be more accurate, right? Shocked. What else? Didn't deserve it. Disbelief was kind of more like maybe they made a mistake, you know? Anything else? What would be your experience if somebody took the time to sit down beside you, give you the tools to get something done, type it up and send it on your behalf? How would you see yourself?
Like you matter.
Like I matter. Like I matter. Here's the question I have for you. Who could you go and do that for? To let them know that they matter. See, what made the action so important wasn't the contest. What made it important was I didn't even ask. I could not have asked. My sense of self was so not existent, I wouldn't even have known how to say the words. Does that make sense? So you want to look to see who could you be Nana for? How could you be Miss Francis for somebody else? Whose life could you save by caring enough to do an unsolicited action on behalf of that person having a completely created relationship with themselves? Take a moment and write it down. Write down the person and write down the action you could take. I'm not saying you're going to take it. There's no request over here. You don't have to take the action. I leave that to your discretion. But I want you to think through the idea. You do not know the impact and influence you have on people, including your boss. Do you know how hard it is to be a leader in this country right now? I mean, I'm not suggesting that you aren't leaders. I'm saying if there's someone that you're leading, like if there's someone above you, they're going through. They're not going to tell you. But what if you actually took the time to do an unsolicited action on their behalf to see what difference could that make in the quality of their life? Again, I'll be quiet while you just make a note of who and what action you could take out of caring enough to leave someone with the best of themselves.